You may find this a little bit unusual, but I feel the need to comment about a part of Texas history. This may stop you from asking rude questions of us Jews. I just started watching the movie starring Michael Caine, The Statement, and the movie begins with a strip search of Frenchmen who were actually Jews, and it went back into battery saver mode. Okay, so the fact is that the men of my generation, Jewish or Gentile, and of generations before that, were not circumcised, especially in the central area of Texas here. That was really for our own protection. Probably dates back to the Inquisition. 300 years of torture and murder, signed off on by Pope Sixtus. I'm trying to pronounce these things right so that because I notice a lot of you don't turn your captions off. You're trying to go by the captions. They're really terrible, auto-generated. But I'm a Jew and I'm uncircumcised, and it's really to keep me from being murdered. Hanukkah's coming up. Happy holidays to everybody. But as this season begins, I'm thinking particularly about what the Festival of Lights means. You don't know. Maybe I'll explain that. Hanukkah is near. And you have no idea the complexity of what I'm talking about. But I've only run into a few people that knew Texas history well enough. One of them was female, that knew that in most parts of Texas, you didn't circumcise a male child, or otherwise the local sheriff, if it got around and got out, local sheriff would put your ass in jail. Number one, if you're not a doctor, you're going to do hard time at the walls. Number two, if you're a doctor, you might be able to retain your medical license. You know, if you're a mohel, off the books mohel, you're fucking going to jail. But if you're a medical doctor, you aren't going to be practicing in that little town or village anymore. You'd be run out of town. There was no circumcision. And it was for our protection, based on how the Nazis operated, and certainly how they operated during the Inquisition, which, bear in mind, lasted until the 1800s. Didn't fully end until the 1800s. So, you know, you can be a Jew and not circumcised, because we have the right to defend ourselves, and we have the right to break God. As a matter of fact, in the latter part of the Old Testament, they're already beginning to talk about what Jesus simply repeated is that you really only need to be circumcised in the heart. And for those of you who kind of take a neutral stance, I want to add this one final statement. I'm going to keep this under 5 minutes. Is that one of the minor prophets in God's provision for people who are born special, people who never learned to read or write or never got the word, is that God does say that all a man need do is to live a righteous life. You may not know about the laws of God. You should. They're supposed to be in your, I don't know, in communist countries, but you have a chance at entering paradise, and you have a chance at salvation as long as you live a righteous life. God provided for brain damaged, children, people who are special that he may have actually put here to teach us to love and care for the weak and the frail. I know this is not in exactly keeping with, but this is part of Texas history, is that there are many Texans like myself who we evaded, murder by not circumcising. I understand God's reason for it. It shortens the penis. That foreskin is an enormous expansion joint. If you leave it, if you don't circumcise, you could actually damage a young female, because you get married. In the old days, people only lived to be 30 to 40, 45 years old. Even when my parents were born, the life expectancy in America was 45 years old. So you didn't wait around. You didn't wait until you were 45 to finally get married, and then they couldn't conceive and stuff. So there's a little bit of Texas history. I'm really leaving out a lot of stuff because I know it's really only my most loyal, subscribers and stuff, and the people that like me the most are the only ones. Actually, I'm really gratified by the fact that I see on my analytics that so many people are actually watching until the very end of sometimes very lengthy videos. And you, like hobo lovers, you don't even watch for half a minute to a minute before you done decided he's some kind of retard. Look, he talking about who's this Plato guy, who's this Socrates guy, who's it? What? Eric Fromm? What? Where's Eric from? I don't. So please bear in mind that I know all of God's laws, and I know sometimes when I have to break them. As I've mentioned before, I don't allow hair over my ear. I don't do the payas thing and stuff, because I know God does not want me to constantly suffer from swimmer's ear. That's when the moisture makes your ear kind of inflame. And because Texas is usually a very, especially beyond the dry line towards the coast, Texas is a very humid place. And if you work hard and stuff like that, you're constantly suffering or having to pour white distilled vinegar into your ears to fight, off any kind of infection and stuff that might come from just excessive, superhydration of the ear, called swimmer's ear. So that's it in brief. You'll find a lot of Texas Jews that are not circumcised because it's a device to keep us from being murdered by the Jew haters. I could pass inspection right now. Between the blue eyes, which I picked up from my Nordic, my English, German, Viking, Ashkenazi, but you can still see that one little drop of Spanish Sephardic blood I still got in me, those persistent brunette. In my hair, I have and I actually carry the genetics for platinum blonde. So we Jews have been milling around for a long time, absorbing, collecting other people's genetics. But I am a Jew. I am a genetic born a Jew. And in those days, almost nobody circumcised except in special little enclaves of wealthy Jews, but part of Houston, part of Dallas, stuff like that, who could keep their baby hidden long enough. But because by the 1960s, they resumed, I think it's probably mostly where the Catholic hospitals started doing it for profit. Really, it was a profitable thing. It actually here's a comment, it desensitizes the male. It does protect the female, though, from damage if they get married early and stuff like that, because trust me, that little bit of skin that's cut off is a huge expansion joint. I ought to know because I'm the former king of the showers in football. And I'm a grower, not a shower.